Okay, and we're on to week 5 of the Waterford Wednesday Criterium series for 2022. Last week there was a two-man break that I failed to be able to stay with, and they ended up staying away for the rest of the race and took 1-2. I ended up finishing third by winning in the bunch sprint. Both of the two guys who took 1-2 last week are back again this week, so certainly my strategy here was going to be to key on both of those two and try to play the break a little bit smarter so I could stay with it with the expectation that I could beat both of them potentially in the sprint. But you need to be with them at the end to do that. So again, really just wanted to key on them and try to be there at the end. A decent sized field this week ended up being 18 or so riders. Real hot. This week it was about 95 degrees when we raced, so it had been pretty cool and a little rainy every other week. This is really the first week with some heat, so definitely something I wasn't quite prepared for. But being Michigan, no one else really should have been prepared for it either. So kind of all on equal footing. So for this week, in terms of teammates, Jason, who's been there every other week so far, he's not here this week, but we do have two other riders from our team. So we have Jonathan on the left side here in the blue kit, and then on the far right side on the red bike, we have Leo, who I guess had just joined the team, and I actually sprinted against him last week, not knowing he was on the team, but kind of now we all know he's on the team, and we're kind of racing as one team now, even though he's in a slightly different kit. So 3 of us together, no other teams. I guess there's one other team. The Morning Cranks have 2 riders this week. Otherwise, I think it's just a lot of individuals. So the first couple laps, really not much happening. Pretty easy pace, so we'll skip ahead. Okay, so we skipped ahead about 2 laps. And so what we see is there's starting to be a break forming up in front of us. And one of those people is Brandon, the guy who's taken first, at least last week and was in that break. One of the 2 people I'm keying on. But what I don't see, somehow I just totally am oblivious that the person who just passed there is Gabe. That's the second person who was in that 2-man break last week and I was trying to key on. I clearly was just not paying attention, and I totally didn't notice he went by. And so, this break is still forming, but in my head, there's only one out of the 2 guys who I thought would be in it, or kind of I'm worried about being in it together. And so I'm still not very worried here, right? I'm just still sitting here assuming that, if there's just one of those 2 guys in it, then the break will probably come back at some point. But really, it's the two guys I'm concerned about. So at this point, because they're together, my assumption is this break is going to stick. But I'm still here. I'm still hanging out. I'm thinking Gabe's behind me. Not too worried. And then as we come around this corner and get to the hill, there's going to be one more person who blows by me to bridge, and I don't look to see who it is. I just assume it's going to be Gabe because now he wants to get into that break as well. And so, again, without trying to figure out who it is, I just go. I just see a person and I just go, and I hit it to stay with them. And we're going to do a nice hard effort up this hill and around the corner, and we're going to end up catching on to this. I'm just going to sit here, do a little less work by being in the draft. And by the bottom of this hill, we've now caught the group. And I think it's a total of 5 of us here that are now in it. So you have one of the 2 Morning Crank guys that are in there. And so now, I just want to recover at this point. I made the bridge. Quite a few guys in there. Strong guys, so let them do the work here. And I can just try to get my heart rate down. 172 for me is really high. I think my max before today ever had been about 176. So it's a hot day. Heart rate's running higher. And now I can see that Gabe is actually up there. He's dropping to the back. So here we are. Alright, so now we're in a 5-man break. Last week, these two really pushed hard to drop everyone but themselves. So I do kind of have a little bit of an expectation that they will be trying to go hard again. And they want it to be as small of a break as possible. And we'll hear a little bit of the commentary here in the race exactly to that effect. So, in some ways trying to conserve energy. Certainly if I end up being in the break, you have to do some work, right? You can just sit in there, but this isn't a crit race paying out $2,000. There's no reason to make enemies. So you can see that guy pulled off. I think that bridging the gap obviously took quite a bit out of him. But I knew there was a group of 5, so I didn't see a reason to bridge back up to him. So instead, like Clifton, like Gabe, they do the work to get back up to Brandon, and I just sit on their wheel here still for a little bit. Okay, so now what we're gonna see is a little bit of an attempt to thin the herd, and I guess not really an attempt, a successful thinning of the herd. So Brandon kind of pulls off, Gabe goes hard, Brandon just jumps right back on his wheel, and at this point they're trying to shed some extra weight, right? And so it's gonna be a hard effort up this hill, and I'm trying to sit third wheel, try to just sit on there. I tried to turn up the audio and clean it up a little bit, pretty unsuccessfully, but what you heard there was Brandon looking back saying, "We're dropping 2, keep going," or something to the effect. So I just knew they were hammering it. But that also meant there's only 3 of us left at this point. Hopefully the pace would come down from an attack to more of just super threshold, high effort to stay away. And at this point, I gotta do a little bit of my own work, so I can't have a total free ride. During the establishment of the break, I was fine kind of taking that free ride, not doing any pulls, but I do need to do some pulls here at this point, and just try to stay with them for the rest of the race. That's my goal. Okay, I'm gonna turn the audio back up here, just for a little bit of a discussion interaction that I have with both Brandon and Gabe, and then discuss it afterwards. Okay, so the first thing you hear is if you pull, you'll have a fighting chance. I guess the interpretation there could be, if you pull and we all pull, we can stay away, and the break has a fighting chance. I didn't interpret it that way. I interpreted it more as, do your fair share, and we won't attack you, and we'll have a break, and we all you can have a fighting chance to beat us at the end, which I think is a totally fair commentary. I don't know which way he meant it, but I'm actually totally fine with the second one. And then you also heard, if you got to make it short, right? I think that's just, it's really nice to, have somebody say, hey, no, you need to do more, It's, hey, you know what, just be part of the rotation. If you need to go short so that you can stay on, then do that. That's fine, but do something. Keep it short. So I thought that was great, And that is what I tried to do. I tried to keep him short for the rest of it. The only thing I'll say is kind of looking at some of the speed. On that first pole, I ended up getting up to 30 miles an hour. Maybe it was a little bit of a downhill. I'm not sure. But, compared to the speed at which they're polling, I think maybe I went a little too hard throughout it. And so, something to kind of watch the rest of this video is when they're on the front and it's flat. So I guess that's kind of a key. Don't look at it now. But, when it's flat, like what speed are they going at versus is me? I'm not saying I was actually going harder than them. It's more something I want to think about in the next break. See what the speed is of the breakaway. What speed are we trying to keep? And make your effort to that speed, right? Don't wear yourself out by trying to go harder than they're going, unless you're trying to obviously break away from them and leave them behind. But yeah, I'm not going to do that. But also, don't go slower. Go do the length of a pole that you need to do to keep the pace of the brake constant. So here, 26 miles an hour. Again, like I said, I hit 30 until I pulled off. So I think maybe I was going a little too hard on that first pole. We'll see kind of what speed do I maintain here. If 26 is supposed to be the speed of the brake, what do I do? Right now I'm at 24. Does that increase, or now am I going too slow for the brake? Again, with some slight hills, it's going to be hard to keep track of that. But you see, that was a really short pole, and I was at 24 miles an hour. So maybe now I'm pulling too slow. Again, I don't know. Just something I want to keep track of in future races, of keeping that constant speed throughout the rotation. And so now we're coming through that exact same corner where I had pulled last time, and now we're at 27 miles an hour, 26 miles an hour. So it probably gives me a little bit of credence to the fact that I definitely pulled probably too hard on that first one, and that I should do a little bit easier pulls for future ones, and be able to survive longer in these breaks. So unfortunately, today was not the day that I was able to stay in the break, though. Same thing as last week, and about the same amount of time. It lasted a little bit longer, certainly, in this one. And no real good reason, right? I felt like maybe they were attacking me last week when I was in there to drop me. This time, we worked as a group. I didn't feel like they were attacking me. I didn't put in super long digs. You can see the power. It wasn't outrageously high on my poles. But at this point in the race, I felt like I was done. I just didn't feel like I had any more in me, and unfortunately I get dropped. Come on. So, have fun, guys. At that point, I probably should have communicated that a little bit faster, so he didn't have to chase back. Not that I should be necessarily looking out for the opponents to not have to burn extra matches, but again, I felt like we were working as a group, and I could have said something faster so that gap didn't form. This is the moment. I'm sitting here at 130 watts, and you start to go, oh, I should have been able to stay with them. I wasn't actually in that much pain. I just need to harden up, right? I should have been able to keep going. My legs aren't really that tired. But in the moment, you just feel like you're on E and you need to stop. So, which one's true? I don't know. I got dropped at the end of the day, so it doesn't really matter. Uh, I was tired. I was done, and they were gone. They're certainly really strong riders compared to me, and so, they weren't attacking me. Worked as a group, and it still was just too much for me on this day. All right, so we're gonna have a morning cranks rider come by me. He says, "Come on, jump on," and this was surprising to me that there was kind of one guy kind of out in the middle of nowhere. The peloton is still way behind us. The rest of the group is, and we have two guys out front. And Bober here, he's chasing him. He's trying to bridge that gap slowly. Kudos to him. This is amazing, me the fact that I couldn't even stay here. So this tells me I am tired. My heart rate's not that high, but we turned here, and this is a headwind. I just turned here. I just couldn't stay with him. I was done. I was literally with him for all of 20 seconds, and just sitting in his draft, I couldn't do it. So. It just stinks. Stinks to watch another person ride away, and then you look behind and you see that the group is way back there. They're not really chasing, and for good reason, right? So with two of my own team members back there, they should have been holding up the entire field, so there couldn't be a chase. So I could have a chance of winning, which of course makes it just 10 times worse, right? Would we have chased down these two or these three now? Had I just never gone with the break, and the three of us could have worked on pulling the entire group back up to them. I think so. I think that's probably a viable strategy. Now that I've been dropped by both of these two races in a row, it's probably safer just to try to chase from behind as a big group. But we'll skip ahead to when I've caught back on to the main group, because they're quite a ways back.
Sorry.
Okay, so we've jumped ahead another minute and 40 seconds. So maybe I was alone for a whole 2.5 minutes. I'll tell you, it was the longest 2.5 minutes of my life, waiting for this group to get back on. And I definitely wasn't going fast at all. I wasn't trying to play keep away, right? My goal now is get in, recover, and kind of get the best placement I can. I don't really have an expectation that we'll chase down that front group. So I'm just going to try to go for the field sprint at this point. I will say, I assumed we would be able to sprint for third. So again, Bober was out there chasing down that group, and certainly he's strong. I thought just mentally, right, being out there for 30 plus minutes probably alone, chasing that group, that the mental fatigue would set in, and we would end up catching him. I'll just spoiler for the ending, because really nothing happens for the rest of this race, so we're gonna skip ahead to the end. He stays out there. That's amazing, right? That he put his head down and just kept going. He never caught the front two, but we never caught him. I personally, I don't have that kind of mental fortitude. I'll just be honest with you. You're probably saying, obviously, you got dropped from a group of three when your heart rate wasn't that high and you shouldn't have been that tired. Clearly, you don't have mental fortitude. You would be right, and it's so impressive that he was able to stay out there. So again, we're gonna end up sprinting for fourth place here. Is the best we can do in this group. Again, no breaks, no one else tries to bridge. Not much really happening for the rest of this race at this point. Just sitting behind my teammates, hoping that the other guys in the group try to pull us back to the front, but I'm not expecting it. I'm just gonna sit here and do none of the work, and again try to go for that sprint. So let's skip ahead. Okay, and we're coming into the final lap of the race. Similar to every other week, my plan is to try to just stay on my teammate's wheel, as long as there's nobody going for it a little further out, and have my teammate be the lead out for my sprint. And so I'm right behind Jonathan to begin with. I'll end up getting separated for a little bit here from him, but but able to get back onto his wheel on the back straightaway. But, nothing crazy going on so far. Maybe a little further back than I want to be, just in case somebody tries to attack. A little bit of a concern of mine here, kind of this early on. Someone could attack up the hill, and I'm a little bit further away, but no one looks to be going too crazy, kind of right off the bat here. And I think that's Leo all the way up at the front. So we have teammates, but this is a good place. The hill's a good place to make up some ground in case people do go. I end up going kind of hard, which actually pushes this guy here kind of up, which actually worked out well for me, because then I could slot right back in. I don't know if he thought I was going for an attack, but kind of moved him up and out of the way, which worked out, so I could get right back behind Jonathan. Okay, and as we come into this backstretch, it's kind of funny what happens. It actually worked out really well, I thought, for me and for us. But as we come here, we have Jonathan, and I want Leo to jump onto his wheel, go in between us, so I have a two-man lead out. And so I'm kind of saying, hey, jump into this spot, go up. So you can have it. And then what we actually see is Leo ends up shooting off and attacking way early, which isn't a part of my lead out, but it actually works out perfectly because it really pushes that speed way up, gets people attacking, it strings out the group a little bit, and kind of now I can make sure I'm in that fourth position or so, exactly where I want to be. I don't have to use a ton of energy to get into that spot, but now it's perfect, right? We have Leo out front in an early attack. I mean, if it sticks, it's great, right? He wins. But otherwise, I'm now right behind Jonathan, where I want to be, and kind of fourth wheel. So this is absolutely perfect for me. I should be probably a little closer to Jonathan than I am. It could be right on that wheel, but so we're gonna come into this last turn that goes into the sprint, the one where I always start early. And of course, like me, I always start early, and so I go past these two really early on, and end up passing Leo, and there's just no one there. So I end up kind of throttling down as I'm looking backwards, seeing that no one's there, and I took fourth. Still a good result. It stinks for a second week in a row that I got dropped from the breakaway, so I really had no chance to compete for first place. Maybe after I got dropped we could have jumped onto the front and pushed the pace at that point to get up there, but obviously I was dead from being in the break and trying to be in it. Probably the smarter position or strategy would have been to never be in the break in the first place, conserve that energy for catching back on, but who knows. It was a ton of fun, as always. It was great. Fourth is, again, it's not a bad result. But yeah, so thank you for watching, and see you again next week.
Yep. Oh my God. That was awful.